Google just released a blog post and a short video about changes that they've made recently over the past couple of months to their account suspension processes and appeal processes. And so as someone who has a whole team at StubGroup who focuses all day, every day on fixing suspensions and working through Google's processes, I figured I would make a little reaction video here about what they're saying and what we are seeing in the trenches, so to speak. So what they are saying is, first of all, something that they don't say super often, and I'm glad to see them say it, which is that they're recognizing that legitimate advertisers often get suspended, as they say it, because we, being Google, didn't get it right, or because they, the advertisers, unintentionally violated a policy. And like I said, you don't often see Google kind of admitting that they get it wrong a lot, or that advertisers maybe did something unintentional that really isn't a big enough deal where they should permanently be suspended. And so Google is admitting that and saying, hey, that's a thing. And because of this reason, that they have been making improvements based upon customer feedback. So here's what Google says they've done. They said that we've made our policies clear. They've deployed AI in new ways to enhance the precision of their detection systems, and they've rolled out more effective review and appeal processes. And they said that these changes have revealed or resulted in some specific results, which I'll go through. First, I will say, in terms of them making policies clear, they definitely have been making a lot of changes and additions to their policies over the last several months. And I've made a lot of videos about those different changes and will continue to do so. So they've certainly been more aggressive at making changes than they have been for a while. Most of those changes have been adding additional text, additional examples to existing policies, as well as sometimes adding additional subsections or new subsections to existing policies. So that is true. They've been doing a lot of work on the policy side of things. They also again say that they've deployed AI in new ways to enhance the precision of their detection systems. Definitely, we see them using AI a lot, both in the flagging of accounts as well as in the review of appeals. Whether or not that is an improvement in the precision of detection, as they're saying, I would not necessarily agree with that. I'm still seeing as many, if not more, situations where their systems are incorrectly flagging things or where the AI is really not applying common sense to situations. So yes, there is more AI. I don't think that necessarily is a good thing yet from what we're seeing here on the ground, dealing day in and day out with suspensions. And then they said they also rolled out more effective review and appeal processes. I wouldn't agree with that. They have made some changes to their appeal processes, but they're still as uninsightful and often complicated and confusing as they always have been. So my feedback as a Google customer, if anybody from Google is listening, is that there's still a lot of progress to be made in making the appeal and review processes more transparent, easier to use, and more effective. Now, Google also gives some very specific claims. So they say, we've reduced incorrect account suspensions by over 80%. I obviously don't have access to all of Google's data, so I can't really comment on that percentage. What I can say from the data that I have access to is, again, we are still seeing as many or more advertisers reaching out to us who we believe have been incorrectly flagged by Google and who need help fixing their accounts. We're not seeing any decrease in the number of people who are having those issues. And if you spend time online in Reddit forums and Google forums and whatnot, you're still going to see tons and tons of people who are having these issues. So maybe they've made improvements. I can't speak to that in the overall, but in terms of what I can see, I'm not really seeing a change. They're also saying that advertiser suspension appeals are now addressed 70% faster. And this is a separate bullet point, but it's kind of the same thing. They're saying 99% of advertiser appeals are resolved within 24 hours. So what I can say is that definitely the speed with which Google responds to appeals has increased over time. There have been times where it took weeks and weeks to hear back from Google, and there are still times where it takes a while to hear back from Google. But there are far more times, certainly, where we get a very quick response within 24 hours or 48 hours when an appeal is submitted to Google. Unfortunately, often that response is simply a rejection of the appeal and boilerplate reasoning for why the appeal is rejected. And this is the area, again, I'm speaking to anybody from Google who's listening to this. My recommendation, as someone who's spending an incredible amount of time in this space, is to be far more helpful and transparent to your advertisers, to tell them what specifically is being flagged and how they can fix that. I see countless advertisers who reach out to us. They are legitimate businesses they're just trying to run ads on Google. They're not doing anything malicious, and they've been flagged by Google for whatever reason. And there's just no transparency or clarity of what specifically they need to go fix. Yes, there may be a policy. I mean, there will be always a policy that Google references, like circumventing systems or unacceptable business practices and misrepresentation, etc. But those are very, very broad policies that Google itself explicitly says these are not, comprehensive examples that we give of what may have gone wrong. And there could be a million different things that Google is flagging are under each and one of these policies, and advertisers don't know what it is that they need to fix or what the problem is. And that's why they come to teams like ours here at StubGroup, who have been doing this for long enough that we built up a lot of pattern recognition to have at least a better sense of what may have gone wrong. But even there, it's certainly not perfect. We still have to do all sorts of trial and error and digging into things and figuring out the nuances of specific situations. And so if Google would be more transparent, more helpful in their communications with advertisers and with agencies like StubGroup who are working on behalf of advertisers, that would go a long way towards, frankly, building more trust in the community and towards, frankly, getting more ad dollars on Google. Like we have so many businesses who want to be spending money with Google and are completely legitimate businesses, and yet Google, because of the use of AI and just the poor issues with how their appeal policies or processes are structured, it's just taking them forever to be able to be allowed back onto the platform to actually pay Google money. So that's my take on what's being released. To summarize, Google is obviously paying attention to this, which is a good thing. And I believe there's still a lot of room for progress to be made to significantly improve how Google approaches suspensions in 2025 and beyond.